Now, the Hunt Palmer Show.
A magic beyond anything you could ever imagine.
You are now listening to the Hunt Palmer Show. Brought to you by Sagrera Farms on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Locking down the middle of the day.
You really think that's the best idea?
Live from the Raising Cane studio. This is Hunt Palmer.
It's quite a piece of work.
Hour 2 on a Thursday, brought to you by Sagrera Farms Premium Angus Beef. We'll talk to Chris Blair coming up in 15 minutes. Folks at D1 Baseball have put together their SEC preview podcast. They're dropping one a day. Yesterday on Highway to Hoover, it was LSU. Joe Healy's going to be with us starting next week. So this week, we got his partner in crime, Mark Etheridge, to join us. He will in 30 minutes. I want to kick off the hour with some Saints talk. Ross Jackson's doing an awesome job during the Saints offseason at LouisianaSports.net and certainly Locked On Saints as well by just giving some breakdowns of the decisions that have to be made by the Saints. And one of the pieces he talked about today was the fifth-year option for Brian Breese, which is due to be picked up or declined by the end of May this year. It'll be something that they take some time to decide on, but it is a consequential decision. And you look back over the course of the Saints' first-round choices, and he detailed it all the way back to 2011. It's been interesting to watch how things have shifted. Some of it is based on level of play, and some of it is based on expense. For those that are unaware, when you draft somebody as a rookie, entering their fourth year, you declare whether or not you want to pick up the fifth-year option on that rookie. It's a first-round pick deal in the CBA. And there are a number of factors that go into what that option costs. It's position, playing time, playing ability, Pro Bowl qualifications, all types of things. But the Saints, generally speaking, picked up a lot of options early on. You go back to the 2011 draft, they picked up Cam Jordan's option. Pretty good decision, I would suggest. In 2013, Kenny Vaccaro was eligible, and they picked his option up. They traded Brandon Cooks, so never had the opportunity to get there, but Andrews Pete's option was exercised. So was Sheldon Rankins. Sheldon Rankins flashed every once in a while, but certainly wasn't a consistent player, and they still decided, yeah, we're going to keep him around. 2017, this was probably pretty quick. They decided to pick up the options on Marshawn Lattimore and Ryan Ramczyk. I think those worked out. Pretty good players. They even picked up the option on Marcus Davenport. To tell you how often they were doing this, they had extended everyone. Well, picked up the option. I shouldn't say extended. Picked up the option on everyone except Brandon Cooks, who they traded. And then you got to 2020. And the numbers started to go up a little bit. And the Saints were in a pinch with the salary cap. And they did not exercise Cesar Ruiz's option. They go, well, he's still on the team. What do you mean? Well, they did not pick his option up. They did extend him at a lower number. They did not pick up the option on Peyton Turner, obviously. In 2022, pretty cut and dried. They picked up Chris Olave's option. They did not Trevor Penning's. So this year, you've got the choice on Brian Breese. And I think this is a fascinating case. And I think it's important because Brian Breese was a first-round choice. He plays defensive tackle, a crucial spot. And I think it could go either way. If you tell me they pick up the option, I'd go, okay, like, I see it. If you told me they declined it, I would go, okay, I see it. Like, there are a few of these that this is a no-brainer. There was no chance you were exercising Peyton Turner's. There was no chance you were extending and exercising Trevor Penning's. There was no chance you were going to let Marshawn Lattimore or Ryan Ramczyk walk. But Breese kind of runs the middle because he started some games. He's shown some flashes. He's got some traits you look for. He's also got significant flaws. We all know that Brian Breese is a very strong interior pass rusher and has been a very weak run defender at defensive tackle. But you got a new defensive staff that did not draft him, and they may have a different opinion of him after 1 year than the previous staff did. I'll be honest with you, when it comes to linemen, I tend to lean on Pro Football Focus a little bit more heavily. I can watch wide receivers. Do they get open? Do they catch the ball? Do they make big plays? What does the stat sheet say? How many yards do they have? How many touchdowns do they have? Like, that's obvious. Running backs are the same way. Pass rushers, I can see how disruptive you are. I can see what your sack totals are. Cornerbacks are a little bit obvious because I feel like I know whether or not you're covering, whether you're making plays on the ball, safeties making tackles. But when it comes to interior offensive linemen, interior defensive linemen, I lean on Pro Football Focus because I'm not watching those guys play in and play out. I'm just not. It's not how I watch a football game. I'm watching the ball most of the time. So I wanted to look at Brian Breese this past year, his third in the league, and see what Pro Football Focus thought. He played in 15 games, played 667 snaps, and Pro Football Focus rated him on defense at 52.9. Not great. His run defense improved this year, but still they had him pegged at 46.2. And in that run defense grade, included into the 46.2 is tackling, which was the worst on the Saints roster at 27.3. Pro Football Focus isn't the end-all, be-all, but I think that paints a picture of what most of us have seen from him in run defense. Not great, missing some tackles. Okay, what about pass rush, where his bread is supposed to be buttered? 62.5, which is pretty good from the interior. You're talking about a pass rush where Brian Breese had 22 hurries this year from the interior, had 5 hits on the quarterback, and had 3 sacks. I believe that the Saints can pick up that fifth-year option. Ross estimated in his piece that doing so would likely cost you somewhere in the neighborhood of more. It would be more than the $12 million he's earned so far. So you're talking about just north of $10 million at this point. Looks like potentially right at 13 is what Ross said. It's projected, it's close, it's not exact, $13 million. Would I think that was a terrible move to pay Brian Breese $13 million? I don't know if terrible is the word I would use. But if you could do the same thing you did with Cesar Ruiz, where you said, okay, I'm not sure you're worth 13. I don't think you'll get 13 if you go to the market, but we would like you on the team. Let's extend your contract and let's settle on a number a little bit lower than that, but give you the extra years of security. In other words, as opposed to giving you $13 million for next year, what if we promise you $17 million for 2? So you're promised and guaranteed $17 million instead of 0 on the back end, but it's spread over 2 years with some security. Maybe it's a 3-year deal. Maybe it's a 4-year deal. Doubt you would go that far. 3 is more realistic. But if you could do that at a lower annual value, I like it. You can always find another wide receiver. You can always find another running back. Trying to find a defensive tackle who can rush the passer is really hard to do. And maybe Brian Breese is just not an every down defensive tackle in his career. Maybe he's a better pass rush situation guy. You get behind in the fourth quarter, he's going to be on the field a ton. If you're ahead in the fourth quarter, he's going to be on the field a ton while the other team throws. You're behind in the fourth quarter, maybe he's not out there as much. Maybe he's not as much of a first down player. Third down, he's on the field. That's not exactly what you want from your first round pick, but he's got value. This is not Marcus Davenport, Peyton Turner, who just didn't do anything in their time in New Orleans. This is not Trevor Penning, who you're having to hide somewhere. This is a guy who has shown some flashes and has gotten better at the other part of the game, which is run defense. You got a new defensive line coach. Maybe that's a reason he showed some strides under Bo Davis. Maybe that's a help. I think Brian Breese's got value. I would not decline the option and just let him walk. If you're going to decline the option, I would try to negotiate something of an extension on the front end. If they picked up the option, I wouldn't think it was the worst thing in the world. Because if you pick up the option, you're not married for a long time. It's just one extra year. One extra year is not the end of the world. It is in the window of Shuck's rookie deal, so I'm counting dollars and cents here, but you have more money to spend. So in short, I would keep Brian Breese around. Ideally, extended, lower annual value, more years. Possibly just pick up the option and pay the $13 million for one more year. That's where I sit on Brian Breese. I'm curious what they do over the course of the spring. It's something that we'll find out before that May 1st deadline. My gut tells me he's a Saint beyond this year, whether that's with the option or the deal. I think they're going to do something along the lines of what I'm thinking about. But it's possible they decide to pinch pennies and move on. I don't like the idea of trying to find another tackle that can rush the passer. There are a lot of Aaron Donalds walking around, and certainly I'm not trying to compare Brian Breese to Aaron Donald, but like guys who can get up the field from the interior, just don't find a lot of them. The Saints have a guy that can do it. I would keep him around. Jordan, your thoughts on where that stands?
Easily keep him around. We're not going to act like Breese is, like you said, Aaron Donald or Jalen Carter, but he's still a serviceable interior alignment. Also, it's a very weird skill set, to say the least, and I'm kind of suffering from a little bit of PTSD of, having a guy in a contract year, a.k.a. Trey Hendrickson, in a contract year, and you just let him walk and, give Davenport the extension. So I don't want to be put in a situation where it's like, yeah, this guy, he's only balling out because of a contract year, and then another team pays him and he just takes off. So I think you should definitely keep him around. Obviously, don't give him top dollar like one of these top guys, but, definitely he has a place in this league and a place on this team for sure.
Professional athletes like multiple year deals. They like security that comes with it, even at a little bit lower annual value. Now, some bet on themselves and say, well, I'd like that security. I'm going to get it somewhere else. And maybe Breese is wired that way. But I think it's one of the more fascinating decisions of the offseason. It doesn't impact this coming year in 2026 at all. He's on the team 2026 no matter what. 27 is what you're talking about here, and I think it's very, very interesting to see what they'll do. Ross has got a great piece up at louisianasports.net if you want to read about that today. It's for free, as all of our Saints content is right there on louisianasports.net. Thursday show is brought to you by Sagrera Farms Premium Angus Beef. Talk to the voice of the Tigers, Chris Blair, next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Fabry Chevrolet GMC. It's all online at fabrychevrolet.com. Huge inventory of new and pre-owned Chevys and GMCs. If you're just a Chevy guy, you're a Chevy gal, Fabry's new to the Chevy game. Go see him. You know what you're going to get. You're going to get incredible customer service with the Fabry family, great buying experience, great service after the sale. And they got one of the biggest inventories in the state up there at Fabry Chevrolet GMC. So go see the Tahoes. Go see the Suburbans. Go see the Silverados. On the GMC side, they got Denali's. They've got your Yukon as well. You can go visit them at Highway 61 in St. Francisville. They've been operating there since October the 1st. Or you can start that process online, as most people generally do, at fabrychevrolet.com. Fabry family's been here 35 years. Make them your next stop if you're looking for a Chevy or a GMC. St. Francisville, Highway 61, online at fabrychevrolet.com.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Sagrera Farms.
Thursday show is brought to you by Sagrera Farms Premium Angus Beef. Talk some baseball with Mark Etheridge of D1 Baseball's SEC Extra Team. Highway to Hoover podcast coming up in 12 minutes. Chris Blair, voice of the Tigers, talks to us on Thursdays. Chris, how we doing?
I'm good, man. I'm good. How are you?
Doing quite well. Defense an issue for Matt McMahon's squad right now. Just not able to close out on shooters or get enough stops. What are you seeing from courtside?
Yeah, I mean, there's really no way to shine that one up last night, to be honest with you. Unfortunately, it's again, I think there's some things that we saw. I went back and looked actually this morning to some of the non-conference games, and there's a couple of things that stood out to me. One was offensive rebounding, has been an issue at times, but it's been an issue even in the non-conference. And I think some of that, to answer your question, is because of the inability to really at times stay in front of the ball handlers, especially point guards in the SEC. They're constantly able to dribble drive at will, and then suddenly all heck breaks loose in the paint. Everybody's in bad rotations, and then, when the shot goes up, you saw last night, the first possession of the game, Mississippi State, I think, had 3 offensive rebounds in their first possession. So I think defense, that's a good place to start, because that only is You allowed Mississippi State, who was dead last in field goal percentage and 3-point field goal percentage in league games, light it up for 50% in both categories last night. And then you get, dominated on the glass. But I think a lot of that starts on the defensive end. I would think, last night offensively, LSU did not play well. They didn't shoot the ball well. That's clear. But I don't think that's their biggest issue. I think their biggest issue is the inability to stop the dribble drive, and not just necessarily specifically the dribble drive, what teams want to do offensively. We're unable to really disrupt the flow that they want to have. I thought at times they were able to do it in the first half against Arkansas on the road in a hostile environment, and then Darius Acup Jr. took over. But last night, that was, I think, defensively, that first 12 minutes of the game kind of sealed their fate.
I was writing when you had Coach McMahon on last night, but I did hear him in his press conference allude to how badly they're getting beaten on the three-point line based on how much they're making from there and how much their opponents are making from there. Did he emphasize that with you at all in the postgame, and what is there to be done about that?
Yeah, it's the second straight game. I mean, when you look at the Arkansas loss, you kind of felt, not that there's moral victories, I get it, but you felt like you went toe-to-toe, you lost by 4 points, and you watched the guy completely become unhinged in Acup, hitting, missing his first shot in the second half and then hitting 10 in a row and hitting from anywhere on the floor. Okay, you come up short. But the big stat differential was a 21-point difference in three-point baskets made by Arkansas versus LSU. You hope that's an anomaly. But then you come in, as I said earlier, against the Mississippi State team that, again, LSU is not a sharpshooting three-pointer team. And nobody's ever tried to convince anybody they are. But when you look at their losses prior to last night, in every loss in the 7 previous losses, they had, 5 made threes. In their 13 wins up until last night, they had 7.5 made threes. So I think that 7 to 9 is the sweet spot for LSU based on what they really want to do inside the paint and at the rim. If you can get 30 to 40 points in the paint and then you add 21, 30 points from three, you're going to be in every ball game in the SEC. And last night they lost the 3-point differential by 18 points on made threes to a team that was dead last at 23% coming into the game. So, I think that, again, is a huge difference. And it's not just defensively. It's that, as you pointed out and as Coach astutely said last night, I mean, it's the mismatch. It's we're not making threes and we're allowing everybody to make threes.
It's interesting to me that they've played good basketball for stretches against really good teams, and then I just don't think Mississippi State or South Carolina are very good, and they've been non-competitive in those 2 games. That's hard to piece together. How do you do it?
Yeah, I mean, John Brady last night, he looked at what we have seen in SEC play, and he said, you could make a very strong argument this team's playing much better on the road. Again, it doesn't suffice for much because you don't have a road win in SEC play. But you look at Texas A&M, who'd have thought they would be 6-1 leading the SEC at this point, and LSU had every opportunity, even without DJ, to win that game on the road to open up SEC play. Again, they won the Missouri game, should have won the Kentucky game at home, but they played pretty good against an Arkansas team, as we mentioned. I think in the first half against Florida, it was clear they were going to try to keep Florida from scoring 90 or 100 points. So, again, I think they do play better on the road. And to be honest with you, it is very hard scratching your head trying to figure out why that is. Because on the road, as you know, you got to create your own energy. You got to fight the energy from the crowd that's there. And I just think they're playing better on the road. And I wish I had an answer. I'm sure Coach McMahon and his staff wish they had an answer because, you look at the South Carolina game at home, they did not look ready to play. They didn't look like they were putting a lot of energy. Last night, I thought Pablo Tamba, for the majority of the first half, was really the only guy giving you any energy. And, again, I love what he does on the glass. I love what he does defensively. But if you're relying on him to be your offensive juggernaut, you're going to be in trouble. And LSU was, obviously, down 23 at the break.
How did Deon Thomas look when he came back into the game after the ankle got retaped?
Yeah, I don't know, man. I'll be interested to see over the next couple of days. I don't know anything, but, it was certainly something that gave both Coach Brady and I pause when he went to the sidelines and then when he came back. I mean, I didn't detect anything at that point. But to be honest with you, it was, even though LSU played a little better offensively, it was still a 21-point game, 18-point game, 22-point game. So I don't know that we could really glean a whole lot as to, is he 100%? What will he be like on Saturday against South Carolina? But, I certainly hate it for him because I know for a fact, watching him in the training room and watching him over at the Maravich Center every single day that he was out for those 3+ weeks, he was desperately trying to get back on the floor. So hopefully that is not a non-factor, and he'll be ready to go Saturday at 5 o'clock against the Gamecocks. And what I think is hard to believe, Carolina just got absolutely blasted earlier in the midweek. But I think that's a huge game for LSU Saturday.
We shall see. Safe travels over to the Palmetto State, and we'll talk next week.
You got it, boss.
That is Chris Blair, voice of the Tigers. They're courtside for LSU and Mississippi State last night. LSU will play a bad South Carolina team on Saturday, but you're not going to hear me make any more declarative statements. I've made them. I talked about how important 2 weeks ago was. They went 1-1. Talked about they were going to lose both games last week. They did. And I said they had to win last night, and they had to win last night, and they were destroyed. So that's where you are. Season's not over. Practice today, practice tomorrow. Fly to South Carolina and see what you can do. But I won't be leading the show with basketball tomorrow. Promise you that. We're going to talk some baseball a lot of the rest of the way here in the month of January, which is 2 more days. And then you got 2 weeks to first pitch. And I don't think it's a secret. I tweeted out a gif of Case and Evans last night on Twitter. And I hate that guy that turns pages. There is nothing in the LSU sports landscape that irritates me personally. This is a me thing, not a right or wrong thing. It's me, how I feel. When that baseball team loses and doesn't win the national championship and they lose their last game, and I see folks telling me it's football season in the middle of June, I want to rip my eyes out of my head. That is the worst thing for me on the entire calendar. But you're looking at a guy who tweeted out a baseball gif last night when the basketball team hasn't even gotten halfway to the end of the SEC season, because that's where things stand for me right now. As I said at the top of the show, I'm going to pull for that basketball team the rest of the way. I'll be watching. I hope they win. I'm pulling for Matt McMahon. I'm pulling for De'Don Thomas and Pablo Tamba, and I'm pulling for Robert Miller and Max McKinnon, and I hope all those guys play hard, and I hope they win the rest of their games. But my analysis of the situation from this chair is that last night cooked it. I wrote it on LouisianaSports.net. I said it in our first segment today. If you missed it, you can go back and listen to it. I'm not selling you anything that I don't believe in. I never sold you anything I didn't believe in. I believed at this point in the day yesterday they had a real shot. I genuinely believed that. I sit here today, 24 hours later, and as it was 12 hours later, 8 hours later, I did not. That's where I sit on the whole deal. I hope they prove me so wrong. Be thrilled about it. Pumped. Don't feel it coming. Thursday shows brought to you by Sagrera Farms Premium Angus Beef. Let me tell you about First American Bank and Trust here in this segment. We'll get to Mark Etheridge here in our next segment. First American Bank and Trust started up in 1910. That's 116 years ago, correct? Correct. 25 locations throughout South Louisiana. If you're looking for a residential loan to get in that house you've always wanted to get into, First American Bank and Trust. You're looking for a commercial loan for your business, First American Bank and Trust. You're thinking, wait a second, this is a local Southeast Louisiana bank. I don't know that they can handle my commercial loan. Trust me. Give them a call. You're talking about a bank that has 25 locations, 25 branches. They've got the assets to make your loans a reality. And every decision that's made at First American Bank and Trust is made right here locally. So you're not calling a call center. The people that you deal with are part of your community. Their kids play sports with your kids. They go to church where you go to church. They're making the decisions about your loan. They've been doing a pretty good job of it. That's why they've been hanging around for 116 years. Stop in one of their 25 locations throughout southeastern Louisiana today. It's First American Bank and Trust. We'll come back, talk a little baseball with Mark Etheridge of D1 Baseball when we come back.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Highland Insurance Group, HighlandIG.com is the website, HighlandIG.com. And as I mentioned yesterday, when weeks like this week happen, it brings into focus why insurance can be so important. I did it for 7 years. I worked in the industry. I know how people feel about insurance. It's not the sexiest thing to talk about. It's not the most fun thing to talk about. And it's one of the things in life that once you pay for it, you don't immediately get anything back. And you hope you never do. But weeks like last week happen, and you do. And you are out of work, or you do need a new roof, or you did slide on some ice and get in that accident. And now you're looking at your insurance policy going, well, I know what I paid for it, but what's in it? With the Howard Insurance Group, you can have the peace of mind whenever weeks like this happen that you're covered, because they're going to make sure with their group of experts, their group of analysts, that they've read over your entire policy that you're placed with a carrier that's going to get you covered. They're not going to have exclusions tucked away in some fine print. That's what they do at the Howard Insurance Group. They're going to make sure you're paying the right premium because they've got access to dozens of carriers. They're an independent broker. So they'll make sure you're placed at the right spot in terms of the premium. They'll shop it around and make sure that you're competitive. They'll also make sure you're taken care of when you need to be. Weeks like this are when you need to be. So if you want a second set of eyes on that insurance program, or you've got a renewal coming up and you're thinking, I might need to get a second option, Highland Insurance Group, Jonathan Carbo and his team, happy to help you out. Find them online at highlandig.com, highlandig.com.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Sagrera Farms.
Thursday show is brought to you by Sagrera Farms Premium Angus Beef. 15 days until opening day out at the box with the Tigers and Milwaukee. And we cannot wait. Another couple folks that cannot wait. Joe Healy and Mark Etheridge over there at D1 Baseball's SEC Extra Team. Highway to Hoover podcast is out every single day. They've got a new breakdown of an SEC team. Looking forward to the 2026 season. Yesterday was the LSU edition. I gave it a listen. Great stuff as always. Mark Etheridge, give us a little bit of time here on this Thursday on the Jim's Firearms Hotline. Mark, thanks for that time. How are you?
Good to hear your voice again, man. I'm doing great. Colin, we got 2 weeks and we're playing ball?
2 weeks and we're playing ball. I plan on getting out to the box at some point this weekend and watching a little bit of it. That won't count, though. They'll count in 2 weeks. I know y'all broke down LSU in yesterday's podcast. I heard a good bit of it, but let's talk about it a little bit. I know you saw the Tigers in Hammond. Let's start with Kason Evans. He's got some shoes to fill. Kate Anderson and Anthony Ianson were pretty good. What is your sense of the Tiger sophomore right-hander?
Well, you said it. I mean, that's really the big question I have for LSU is what does the rotation look like? Can Kason Evans develop into the ace that certainly he showed flashes last year? He's got the stuff. He's got the makeup. I think the big question is can he do it week after week, right? And can he go multiple times through the lineup, go 6-7 innings, whatever they need that start, and then turn around and do it again the next week and the next week against, some of the best teams in the country. I think from a draft standpoint, I mean, he's what people are looking for. If we look at the 2027 draft, he's going to be one of the first pitchers off the board. And that just shows the talent he has. Now the question comes, can he produce at the highest level in the sport? And that's going to be the fun part that we figure out in a few weeks.
I'm fascinated by what comes after Kason Evans in the rotation, and I think Nate Johnson and Nate Yeske are going to do some shuffling over the course of the first 4, 5, 6 weeks. What's your sense of another option or two behind Kason Evans in your discussions with the LSU staff, and then certainly seeing him back in the fall?
Well, the Kansas transfer, Cooper Moore, he is someone who had a really big fall. I didn't know how he would be. Coming in from Kansas, he did really well there. But LSU's got so many options. But he's been able to step forward in the fall, and certainly a couple weeks out, he's going to be a guy who's going to be featured prominently in that weekend mix. You recall William Schmidt from a year ago, a Baton Rouge kid. Most people thought he would go pro, and he ended up on campus. Had some moments a year ago, primarily pitched midweek. He is improved quite a bit and looks ready to, at least he's going to get a shot to be one of those weekend guys. Another one I would watch is Marcos Paz, true freshman. He is one of the top recruits to make it to campus, and I think as a result, he's talented enough that he's going to get a chance. He's also coming off Tommy John, so he'll be, we'll just say, used carefully. Certainly early in the year as he builds back up his strength and just get some reps in. But he's a guy that, sky's the limit. He's going to be an ace before he's done.
I think Jay Johnson's kind of earned the benefit of the doubt offensively with just next man up, and they'll develop him, and he'll have the eye for the talent. But what is your overall sense of what LSU's lineup will be in 2026?
A lot of older players. Oftentimes you see LSU just brings in these great freshmen, and they're just too good to sit. And they may have some of those. They may have evolved into the lineup. But right now, they use the portal to fill some gaps. But there weren't that many gaps when you look at Stephen Milam and Derek Curiel and Jake Brown and Chris Stanfield and Kate Aaron Beatty. These guys who played key roles a year ago are all returning. So now I think the question is, how does that starting lineup shake out, and where does the power come from?
Yeah.
Obviously, losing Jared Jones is a big blow, but it's going to be interesting to see what Zach York does. He's a monster kid. He's like 6'2", almost 3 bills. He moves around good at first base, a lot better than you'd expect for somebody his size. And he's got a good bat. He's not just a power guy. I think he'll hit some home runs, but he's got a pretty good eye at the plate and puts the ball in play. He's a fascinating player for me. Another one I would keep my eye on is Trent Caraway, Oregon State transfer. He's going to play third base. He's the backup shortstop. He's at Oregon State, he was one of these guys who would just go on a tear, but he was a little bit hot and cold. And, now he's older. He's in a different place. It's junior year. I feel like he's in position to have a breakthrough year. And one other guy I'll throw at you, Braden Simpson, the High Point transfer, monster year in the Big South. Now he moves to the SEC to see if he can continue that kind of pace at the, against this kind of pitching. But certainly the talent is there for him to have a breakout year as well.
Mark Etheridge is our guest. D1 Baseball's SEC Extra Team, Highway to Hoover, previewing every single SEC team, usually 18, 20 minutes on each team. Really digestible. I've enjoyed it. I've listened to every podcast they put out. They're going backwards, alphabetical order. So started with the Vanderbilt and Tennessees of the world, working towards Alabama and Arkansas at the end. Let's get a thumbnail on some of the other teams in the league here, Mark. Not a deep dive, but just a thumbnail if we could. How you feel about Tennessee? It's a big transition on Rocky Top.
Yeah, it certainly is. With Tony V, he's in San Francisco now. Josh Elander's the new head coach. He was the top assistant. Frank Anderson, the pitching coach, also went to pro ball. So it's just a different staff. Tennessee is going to be very talented. They have a very deep roster. I'm not sure how their lineup's going to shake out. Sort of like LSU. There's a lot of options, and I think it'll be one of those influx lineups all year. The question I have for them is who's going to be the ace. They've got certainly talented pitchers, but they lost quite a bit with Liam Doyle and Marcus Phillips, and those guys are gone. So that's the question for me. The other part, Tennessee struggled at home last year, which is just baffling considering that home environment that they play in, and I feel like that's something that they've got to figure out. What was missing at home, because they've renovated the ballpark. It's a showcase venue now, and they need a whole serve at home.
Let's talk about Texas A&M. Nobody could believe what we saw last year, and so now you get a second chance for Michael Early to redeem himself. What's the vibe in College Station right now?
Optimistic. I believe that with that lineup and the people that they have returning, and you're talking about guys like Gavin Grahovic, who you remember 2 years ago was great as a freshman and missed pretty much the whole year. Caden Sorrell, who was injured much of last year. But when he was in there, he just tore the cover off the ball. Chris Hakopian, Maryland transfer, is going to probably play shortstop. They have 3 of the best hitters in the country in their lineup, and that's a great place to start. I think the question for them is on the mound. Shane Sadeo, another guy who missed last year with injury. You sense a trend here, why they might not have did so well.
Yeah.
Weston Moss, who was probably their best pitcher, one of them anyway. He was a reliever, moving to the rotation. He's got a chance to be a really good player. So I think the pieces are there. The question is, can Michael Early figure this thing out from an in-game management standpoint, from a leading the team standpoint? Because I think the talent is there. I think last year it sort of got away from them, and they just weren't able to right the ship. And first-year head coach in this league, I kind of get it, right? And I think that he probably gained 5 years worth of experience with that 3 months during the spring that we're going to find out how much it paid off, because it's another tough schedule yet again.
I know you'll be in Starkville opening day. I will be there. Got a confirmation for my booking yesterday. I'll be there for LSU and Mississippi State when that happens later in the season. It's a new coach there. It's a roster with a lot of new guys, and I know that your partner there, Joe Healy, thinks a lot of them. How do you feel about the Dogs?
I saw them this spring, just blown away with how deep they are, both positionally and on the mound. And Ace Reese wasn't even playing, and he's their best player. He missed the fall with a foot injury. They've got everything you want. They've got veteran players. They've got players who were in the program a year ago who are returning. They've got people who came with Brian O'Connor from Virginia who can help instill his culture and his way of teaching. And they brought in some impact newcomers, both from the portal and from freshman players. I think they got everything you need. The question is going to be finding the right mix when you have all those pieces, if you're trying to put the puzzle together in the right way. And then on the mound, they lost their entire rotation. So just, how do you mix and match to get the best three on the weekend and continue that on through the season? Because none of them have done it at this level.
Well, Mark, your partner in crime over there at D1 SEC Extra was very opportunistic last night. LSU's basketball team lost, went to 1-7. Everybody's texting me baseball, and I pull up Twitter and bam, Joe's retweeted the LSU preview right as the game goes final. I got a chuckle out of that. I texted him about it. We're going to crank up our weekly segments next week. We'll be listening. We'll be reading. Can't wait for baseball. It's Mark Etheridge with D1 Baseball's SEC Extra team, Highway to Hoover, every single day thus far, recapping and previewing SEC teams getting ready for the season. Mark, we appreciate the time, and we'll catch up down the road.
Absolutely. Appreciate you, man.
He is Mark Etheridge with D1 Baseball. Let's take one more time out, come back, and close it up. It's the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Fabry Chevrolet GMC, FabryChevrolet.com. Make the short drive to St. Francisville. Check out the entire inventory, FabryChevrolet.com. Highway 61 in St. Francisville, as we mentioned. You know the Fabry family. They've been in business 35 years, 3 locations, 5 brands, and now thrilled to have a Chevy GMC point there in St. Francisville. Whether you're over in New Roads, Ventress, you're over there in the Felicianas, Point Capee, you can make that short drive, and certainly the folks over at East Baton Rouge Parish and West Baton Rouge Parish can do the same for an incredible inventory of Chevrolet and GMC deals. When you work with a Fabry family, you're going to get incredible customer service, a great buying experience, service after the sale. Tahoes, Silverados, Suburbans, Sierras, Yukons, Denali's, you name it, they've got it. Check out that inventory, new and pre-owned, at FabryChevrolet.com. Been open since October 1st. They're open for you today at FabryChevrolet.com.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Sagrera Farms.
Who brings you our Thursday shows? That's, of course, Sagrera Farms Premium Angus Beef. Herd supplies in the country are down at levels that we haven't seen since the 50s and 60s, and obviously our population is way up from the 50s and 60s. What does that do? It decreases supply, demand is increases, you see premium pricing, right? You're going to buy ground beef wherever it is that you buy your ground beef, and you're seeing that price go up and up and up. If you're going to pay a premium price, which you're already doing, get a premium product. Can promise you, if you get your beef from Sagrera Farms, you're getting prime Angus beef. I give you that intramuscular fat score all the time. You're looking at select meat, that's 0 to 3. Choice, 3 to 7. 8+ is prime. You're looking at beef that's 11, 14, 18 in some cases on the farm. That's not a guess. That's via ultrasound. That's the type of product you're getting from Sagrera Farms. So go to Sean and say, hey, I want a quarter of a cow. I want a half a cow. I want a whole cow. Go in with some friends. Go in with some family members and get a half cow. Stock that freezer. So when you want to have steak night and have ribeyes and strips and fillets, you got them. When you're ready to put burgers on the grill, you've got that prime ground beef in the freezer. It's been a game changer for us in the Palmer house. Love it. It's just a different way to buy your beef, and you're getting a premium product. One DNA when you bring that home. You're talking about no improper antibiotic use, no steroids used. And you know where it comes from, right up the road in Ethel. So call Sean. I give you his number every single week. You call Sean, say, hey, heard about you on Hunt Show. I'd like to talk about this. He loves to talk about it, and who's happy to talk about it with you. It's 225-719-1723. Again, that's 225-719-1723. Call Sean at Sagrera Farms and change the way you do beef. Sagrera Farms bring your Thursday shows every single week. Take it or leave it.
Take it or leave it.
Take it or leave it.
Today's hottest stories in sports, news, and sometimes even Hunt's life. The question is, will he take them or leave them?
Okay, so we're going to start this one off with Bills quarterback Josh Allen, as he was seen today in crutches and a boot, and it was revealed that he had a broken bone in his foot. He had surgery on Monday. This is an older injury, as he broke his foot originally against the Cleveland Browns in Week 16.
Okay.
So could a Josh Allen have made a Super Bowl push with a broken foot? Take it or leave it.
I guess I'll leave it. They didn't get there, but they I guess they could have, but they sure didn't. It's just, as we've talked about so many times, the NFL is straight up a war of attrition.
Brutal.
Who can you keep on the field and for how long? And it's never everybody for everybody. You just got to hope your main guys are healthy, and you know that the guys like Josh Allen are going to try to play through anything that they can, but ultimately it's a matter of whether or not you can stay healthy. You know that Sean McDermott's thinking, hey, told you so, but
wasn't me, man.
It is what it is.
But can we just talk about playing the game of football with a broken foot for 5 weeks straight? That is, I don't know. These people
I can't walk to the bathroom with a broken
literally,
foot.
like, these people are not human at all. So nearly 71% of the 78 players polled by the Athletic, that they have received direct communication from fans relating to negative betting or fantasy football outcomes.
Yeah.
Multiple players said they have received Venmo requests from fans looking to recoup their gambling losses. So sending Venmo requests to players, take it or leave it.
I'll leave that. This is something I don't understand. I'll never really understand. I think it's such a pathetic thing how fans use social media to interact with athletes in a demeaning or negative or quote-unquote mean way. I just think that's so pathetic. It happens in college. It happens professionally. It's something in the fans' mindset that they believe they're entitled to something. I just think it's pathetic. It's recruiting. It's awful.
Oh, yeah, recruiting too. Yes.
It's just, if you are a person who jumps on a Twitter feed to go yell at an athlete, that's pathetic. There is no other way to describe that. If you consistently jump on Twitter because someone fumbled or someone missed a free throw or someone dropped a pass or struck out, and you think it's the best way to just go, you suck on Twitter, you're pathetic. I don't try to be demeaning on here. I don't fight with people. But that is a pathetic way to go about things. If that's the way you operate, I would reconsider.
No, most definitely. So we'll wrap this on, make this one real quick. So Tyrann Mathieu opened up about his struggles with his drug addiction at LSU. And he said he nearly died because the way he was trying to shake this drug test was by drinking bleach in a Coca-Cola.
Yes,
so drinking bleach to clean your system, take it or leave it?
I'm going to leave that. Poor decision. My wife likes a clean house.
Yes.
I believe she goes a little overboard with the bleach spray, specifically around the cat. Cats make messes. We have the cat set up in the corner of the laundry room, out of the way of the house. Let's just not overwhelm the cat with bleach spray because you're not thrilled with one thing that happened here or there. This is to a new level.
Very new.
Maybe just ease up on the weed and don't drink bleach. That's my advice to younger Tyron. A little less weed, a lot less bleach.
A lot less bleach.
That probably would have been the better way to go about it. But everyone's young and dumb. I was certainly young and dumb. Can't say I drank bleach, but I'm glad Tyron's still around.
We live and we learn, man. So that's it for Take It or Leave It.
That's it for us. Missed any of the show? Catch it on demand wherever you find your sound. Matt's going to drive you home next on After Further Review. Everybody, it's a safe and happy Thursday evening. We're back tomorrow with a Friday edition of The Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.